everybody. Thank you for joining us today on TomGirl, where we talk all things sports, entertainment, fashion, and adventure. Today, we have voiceover superstar Vanessa Marshall. And Vanessa can be heard voicing badass female characters such as Wonder Woman, Hera, star from Star Wars Rebels, Black Canary, Strangelove, and hundreds of more in animated series, films, and video games. So today, she's going to talk to us about creating those characters and her life behind the mic. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey, Vanessa, thank you so much. Wonder Woman song for you.
Yay.
Yeah, and I wore the bracelet
That's
just
right.
for you.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I am so
Thank
freaking
you.
pumped to have you here.
I am so happy to be here. It's wonderful. It's so
Yeah.
hard to hang out with people in Los Angeles. I'm so grateful we did this.
I know, we
Yay.
made it happen finally.
Woo.
Yes,
I'm so grateful. Yeah.
And I'm going to pick your brain about all things VO and your
Awesome.
amazing
I
career.
can't wait. I can't wait. Cool.
Well, let's first start by talking about how'd you get started in voiceover?
Well, I went to Princeton for undergrad, majored in English, went to NYU Graduate School for acting, and studied dialects and this and that. And I thought, when am I ever going to use this stuff? You know, and of course, it ended up coming in handy. I started doing stand-up comedy after I graduated and sketch comedy. I did a one-woman show that I played like 14 different characters and interacted with myself as different people and this and that. It was quite the fantasia. And a voiceover agent saw me do that and said, you know, you might want to try animation. So I went in to CESD in Los Angeles and I read for Kathy Lizio. And she made me do a bunch of characters at the end. My reads were horrible. I mean, I was so nervous. I think you could actually hear my blood pounding in my neck, like my jugular went, you know. And but at the end, I did all these different voices, sort of one joke per character. And she was like, I think you're just wacky enough to book work. And I said, works for me. And since then, took a ton of classes and have sort of had such a lovely time learning and growing. And as you know, society changes and politics change, the way Americans want to be spoken to, everything shifts, and it's so stimulating. It's almost like being in a constant anthropological experiment of sort of wondering, how do you capture a listener's ear to motivate them to want to either purchase something, watch something, or truly deeply have a great time. So it's just been so stimulating. And it's funny because my mom is an actress. Her name's Joan Van Ark. She was on Dallas and Knots Landing.
That's awesome.
And my dad, well, he was a news reporter at NBC. He won Emmys. And so, you know, he's very grounded and always telling me there's a couch on the 405 freeway. You know, he's very sort of journalistic. And my mom is incredibly theatrical. And so I literally, of course, I'm the genetic amalgamation of the two of them, but I have this sort of questing spirit to both understand people, find the truth, create characters and explore them and this and that. And so the world of voiceover sort of perfectly serves that interest. And I also write and do a bunch of other things. But I have just had such a great time learning and highly recommend it for anyone who's aspiring. Just keep on trucking. It's worth it. It's worth it.
And your mom did a little bit of voiceover as well, didn't she?
Yeah, she was the voice of Estee Lauder. I remember back in the day, she had to fly to New York on the weekends to record for Estee Lauder because I think she was working at the time on like the Rockford Files or some epic show. And I think she was actually on Wonder Woman too. With Ted Shackelford, who played Gary Ewing, her husband, on Knots Landing. They're wearing spandex, and you must Google it. It's pretty epic. I don't know if it's possible to Google at this moment, but the spandex is beyond your wildest dreams.
Yeah. What a fun mother-daughter bond for you two
my gosh.
to share that.
Well, so, and then she also was Spider-Woman, which was great. I eventually came to play Mary Jane in Spectacular Spider-Man. And I was like, you know, your mom was Spider-Woman. I had no. Oh,
That's
my
okay.
God.
I do it all the time. That's me
okay.
like every third show.
It's a true
so
party
all
now.
Good. We'll get that
My
later.
apologies.
Yep.
Good times.
That we were having tequila earlier.
Yeah, right. Oh my God! I saw my hand gesture. I saw it happen, and it really.
And
did.
it always goes so slow, right? That's when
Lord.
I always see it too. I'm like, oh,
Anyway.
I can't grab it. All good.
So, yes. So, my mom has also done voiceover, and she's now currently represented by CESD. So, we're there together. And so, it's so funny. She'll call me. She's like, how do I do a Russian accent? And I'm like, Mom, I don't know how to help you with that one. Yeah, I mean, well,
Yeah.
I do, but it's sort of like, how long do we have?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
Hey,
good.
we got
Thank
paper
you.
towels
There,
up
yeah.
in here. Thank you.
Thanks, Marissa.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is life. Life
Yeah,
happens.
it sure does.
There we
no
go.
big deal at all.
There we go. Sweet.
Yay.
Anywho.
Anywho,
So-
yeah. So, okay, go out. There's so many questions I can ask you, even with
Yeah.
just that chunk nugget that you just said there. So, I want to hear a little bit about the stand-up comedy and the writing, because stand-up
Oh, yeah.
comedy is no joke. Like that's
Oh, I love it.
You love it. Were you ever fearful? How
no.
do you No, you just loved
No
it.
way. Well, you got to understand something. I am about 70 pounds thinner than I once was. Which is to say that I was always sort of the fat, funny girl, which is to say that my franchise was never like, oh, I'm so gamine. You know, like, look at me. It was never that. It was always, all right, I'm massive. I better do something to, you know, maintain someone's interest. I don't know. So I was always sort of the one with moxie, you know, imitating people or just being, you know, wacky, this, that, and the other thing, like hamming it up, if you will. And I mean, I don't know if this is normal, but I loved Bette Midler as a child. I would dance around and invite my friends over and basically lip sync. My analyst told me that I was running out of my head the way he described it. He said, and like the kids are going, the hell is she talking about? And but this was my idea of a great time. I loved Bette Midler, and I completely blanked that I had done that. But anyway, so that's sort of where I come from. Is this kind of shameless? Even the one of the on camera roles that I played for. It was Scrubs. Becky, the medical intern, also worth Googling. I wore my Incredible Hulk T-shirt, my polyester gym shorts, and knee-high socks to the audition. I mean, aggro.com. I looked awesome. And yeah, I play basketball with Zach Braff and Donald Faison, and I get really aggressive and like bang the trash can. And anyway, what I'm saying is like none of that scared me. So getting up on stage and telling the truth or asking people to consider the truth, wow, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I was never going for jokes per se. Life itself is so hilarious to me that I don't really think you need to do much. You just sort of present life as it is, and you know, in that certain light, people can find it funny. I remember a voiceover teacher that I studied with, Maurice Tobias. She, at the time, Seinfeld was very big, and all these sort of comedians were getting their own TV shows, Ray Romano, this and that. And at that point, like I said, culture shifts, and so do the reads. She said the stand-up is leading our culture right now. And I never forgot that, because the stand-up sits at the mic and is able to, you know, you might not agree with what they're saying, but you respect the integrity and specificity of their truth and their courage to tell it. And in a weird way, I almost started to view stand-up comedy as like shamanism in a weird way, to have the humility to get up there and just present the truth and be vulnerable. You know, Amy Schumer is just out there, you know, Sarah Silverman, all these people. And so I loved doing that. And at the time, I had been discovered as a plus-size model, another topic of conversation. But this was when I was sort of much heavier. And I guess I was, you know, a nice size that was able to wear their clothing, or I'm not even sure. It was confounding to me, having grown up in Los Angeles, where if you're not a size 0, you should probably like off your, you know, I mean, it was a very strange town to grow up in, where looks were everything, and it didn't matter that you had a good heart. You know, no one cared. But again, I think that's why I decided to go more towards pursuing the truth and love and light and things like that seem to matter more in the end. But anyway, I took to stand-up comedy sort of straight away and loved it. And the only reason I stopped doing it, I got married, and I was like, good wives don't go out and hang out with crazy men. You know, like I'm being a bad wife, which is like, by the way, if you're telling yourself a story about what's going to make something work, i.e., I should be the person that this person wants me to be, it's a recipe for disaster. Like, keep doing your stand-up. Be true to yourself. If I can teach anyone anything, I learned that life lesson. That's one regret. I wish I had continued to do it. And I actually have been considering getting back out there and doing it now.
I love that for women because I think there are so many times I've done it. All my friends have done it times where we're like kind of not apologizing for ourselves, but taking a step back from things that maybe we love or we want to do to, for that.
I mean, they're again, it's sort of like stories that we tell ourselves. Which, yes, you do need to make sacrifices in a relationship. You do need to adult and you need to raise a child if you are a mom and so on and so forth. And there is a measure of self-sacrifice that is necessary. But I do think that if it's done at the expense of a person's self-fulfillment, ultimately they are running on fumes and have nothing to give to either the relationship or the child or whatever else. And when I meet younger people who are in relationships, I really encourage them to keep their hobbies going, keep what makes them going, because ultimately I think that's why these people are attracted to us and fall in love with us. And when we stop doing them, we become sort of hollow versions of ourselves. And, I am actually best friends with my ex-husband, and I think we get along better now because I'm living more without apology, and I'm 100% true to myself. And there are certain things we don't agree on, and I'll just say, I like my coffee like that, okay, or whatever it is, and we're able to respect one another, and it works out. But anyway, that's sort of a roundabout answer. But yeah, I have loved doing stand-up, and I hope to do it again.
Well, you're very fearless. Was there ever a time with voiceover that you had any fears, or were you just gung-ho into that as well, start like earlier in your career?
I don't know that I had fear. It's funny because I've also pursued things as a writer. And so voiceover was sort of my day job for a little bit. I was pursuing on-camera acting theatrically, and I would do voiceover, and I started booking more voiceover work. But it allowed me to succeed in the world of voiceover because I put all my sort of stress and fear and worry on what I look like or what the camera thinks or all these other things. That voiceover felt like a relief. And so I allowed myself to play there, and then that started booking, and I was like, oh, well, why don't I just focus on that alone? And that's sort of what I ended up doing. And I found that I end up booking more when I keep myself fulfilled in ways that are outside of, or away from the microphone, if you will. And now I'm no longer pursuing the on-camera stuff, but I'm definitely pursuing writing. I've done a lot of these essay shows, sort of akin to The Moth, where people meet, there's a premise, and we all sit around and tell a story. There's a book called True Tales of Love and Lust by Anna David, and she featured one of my essays. It's called Fresh Step. I performed it in one of her, she does sort of nightclubs around Los Angeles, and she picked a few people to be in her book. So I was published. That was great. And I haven't really been doing those. I'm on the second draft of a novel that's sort of fictionalized memoir of having been a plus size model. And once I accepted myself, I ironically lost 70 pounds. And I was like, no, wait, because I was gainfully employed and happy to be a big person. But I just sort of became right-sized, if you will, more athletic, which is where I remain. I recommend self-love. If you want to be a plus-size model, maybe it's not the best move because I not swiftly, it was actually very slowly lost the 70 pounds and I would wear a fat suit to try and, maintain my title because I was on bra tags. Like I really worked as a plus-size model. It was crazy. And they would encourage me to eat, and it was just like my entire universe got turned upside down. But anyway, so my novel is about that. And again, growing up in the shadow of a woman who, my mother worked on Knots Landing for 13 years, size 0, also an incredible athlete. Sometimes she'll run 17 miles a day. Like I don't even drive that far. She's incredible. My mom is really just a talented actress, but also an incredible athlete. Yeah, so, and that was optioned back in 2009, and that may come sort of back around again. I'm not really sure, but I also have 2 other animated series that I'm trying to pitch. And again, it's all about being stimulated. It's about giving back. It's about being humble and grateful and, paying that energy forward. And I think it really translates and sort of falls together, if it's meant to anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have had some major, strong, badass female roles that you have voiced.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just been
They're
an
groovy, yeah.
inspiration for me and like a lot of girls and boys out there. So let's talk a little bit about a few of those.
Okay.
I want to pull up your, on your demo reel or your website on your animation one, I think we have here. So you're Hera in Star Wars Rebels.
Yes, I am.
So I think let's play a little bit that. It should be under the Star Wars.
I think if you just
I think
double
just
click
click
on
it,
the Star
yeah.
Wars Rebels logo, it should come up. There we go.
You know, he didn't have to drag us all the way out here. Could have just transmitted the plans to Rex.
Why would I hand over my ship to just any pilot?
Would any pilot risk their life to come to this death trap?
Perhaps not. So why did you?
I was a little girl when the Clone War came to Ryloth. My mother hid us below ground, but I'd peek out when the Republic ships flew over, as they fought to liberate my world. I dreamt of nothing more than to be up there with them.
So you left your family to fight?
I left my family so I could fly.
As a combat pilot?
If we want freedom, we must make difficult choices. I chose to leave my family. I chose to learn to fly. And then I chose to use that ability to help others in need. It's all rooted in something I can't explain. A need to be up there. Because even when there are explosions all around me and things are at their worst, I feel like I'm at my best.
I love it. I mean, what does that role mean for you?
Well, I'll tell you, my father, after he worked at NBC, he retired and he was in the Air Force long ago, but he worked sort of as a journalist on the radio for the Air Force and in Germany. And he said, I've always wanted to learn how to fly. And I dared him. I said, Dad, go get your pilot's license. Why not? And I can't believe it. He went out. He not only got his pilot's license, but he got certified to fly an open cockpit biplane. So he's that dude over, Agua Dulce or whatever it is out in the valley and over the poppies and what have you, doing aerobatics.
Wow.
And he's friends with a group of pilots, and they are the most hilarious guys ever. And they talk like that. And my dad feels that way about flight. The value of it is so important to get perspective and to be up there. Now, my dad is never in combat, but of course, doing hammerheads and whatever else, it's, he looks like Snoopy with his goggles on or whatever. It's pretty intense.
The Red Baron.
Yeah, and my dad has this big blonde afro. So when he puts the thing, he like contains the fro and puts the goggles on. It's pretty epic. But yeah, there was something about the power of flight, the necessity of it for a pilot that I remember when I did this scene, I was thinking about my dad and I sort of dedicated the performance to him. And I think Dave Filoni really did a great job, as did the writer Steve Melching, to really sort of capture that essence of the pilot's spirit. But yeah, so Hera was such a cool chick. She really was. Yeah.
How do you draw, how do you develop your characters, or how do you decide what you're going to bring, to the scripts?
I studied a lot of Joseph Campbell, and I love the idea of sort of primal archetypes and sort of combining them and seeking out, the different types of women that tend to sort of operate in the world and mixing and matching those. And I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so a lot of things I will strain through Star Wars. And when I got that audition, it was called Wolf. And I didn't know that it was actually for Star Wars Rebels, but it felt like it was to me. And I applied the principles of the Rebel Alliance and that journey to the script. And luckily, in this case, it actually panned out for me because that is literally exactly what she was talking about. And so maybe they could feel I care deeply about that narrative. Maybe they felt that, but also it happened to be one and the same. So that was very lucky. And I ended up booking the role. But different characters, I feel like they're located, they come from different areas in the body. They operate from different levels. Some are sort of more grounded and from the core, and others are more sort of cerebral. And so I kind of make that choice. But ultimately, it's about the specificity of sort of what they want, where they are, what the stakes are, and so on and so forth. and then forget all about the sound. Because then if we go from the outside in, it feels sort of empty.
You're
And-
meaning like for people not to try to put a voice on it
Exactly.
or not to
Like, oh, I think she should, it's
Yep.
like, no, but why does she sound like that? The jobs that I have booked have been ones where I made specific choices and sometimes have based them on people I know. One of the character, Mary Jane from Spectacular Spider-Man, I felt she would sound like a friend of mine. And so I imitated her for the audition. And that gave me permission to know exactly how she would say everything. And so sometimes, and I think the listener can feel that, like, that's a real person. That person really, she knows who she is, And sometimes you can do that by, I've taken animation classes where they say, take, Miley Cyrus and Lucille Ball and put them together. And what does that sound like? And that creates a completely unique character. And sort of how they might think together. But
what a fun character that would be.
oh yeah, oh definitely crazy. Yeah, very. Yeah. But anyway, so I just always try and keep it interesting. It's funny because Hera's voice is very much located where mine is, and so since then, if I've read something, I'm like, gosh, I wonder if people are going to say like that carnation milk commercial kind of sounds like Hera. What is that? So I usually for animated shows I've created voices that are other than my own, and Hera is very close to me in every way. So that it's sort of like I don't want to be derivative of Hera for the rest of my life, but that's kind of who I am, So it's been an interesting journey. And then the season just ended. The season 4 Blu-ray just came out. It's very exciting with all the extras. I love it. If you haven't seen that, go for it. So it's sort of post Star Wars Rebels now, kind of, facing the music. It's good times.
How has it been being just a part of that family? I mean, with Comic-Con and all the fans.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's been incredible. There's a group, Star Wars in the Classroom. Teachers use the Star Wars narrative to sort of teach Shakespeare and all kinds of things. And they're all over America. I've met up with them at Comic-Cons. That's been lovely. All the fangirls, all the people who follow Ashley Eckstein and her universe, like we all sort of wear the Boba Fett dresses and whatever it is. Like I've made friends that I know I'm going to have for the rest of my life. The 501st Infantry, the huge Star Wars fans, they made us honorary members, and the Rebel Legion did, as well as the Mandalorian Mercs. It's just like, I feel like I'm going to have friends for the rest of my life. As an only child who's, read books and collected action figures and been a nerd in silence forever, to finally have all these people on social media, there's never a dull moment, ever. And it's been fun to go to the conventions, and I'll meet the 501st at wherever I am, and we hang out. It's as if I've known them forever. It's so weird.
And you have your own action figure, right?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, was that not just so exciting when you got that?
That was mind-boggling. I got to say, that Comic-Con, when we first introduced Star Wars Rebels and Hasbro released an action figure, and then there's a Black Series, they're just, then the Lego figure, too. Yeah. It's really, it's just bizarre. It's really just bizarre. Yeah.
What have been some of those moments in your career where you're just like, I don't want to say, oh yeah, I made it, but those big pivotal times where you're just like, you really wanted that, you got it, or this one just like, you're just so grateful and so happy that you got this.
Well, yeah, Star Wars was one of those. Mary Jane for Spectacular Spider-Man was one of those. I'm a huge Marvel fan. When I was at Star Wars Weekends, and they have this sort of car parade that they do where they play the Star Wars music, and to see all of these people who truly love Star Wars as much as I do, I mean, I don't know if that was like a success moment as far as voiceover is concerned, like, yay, I made it, but I felt like I was home. And that was such a lovely feeling, and I'll always carry that with me. It was really a beautiful thing. That was at Disney World in Orlando. It was just magical. And Peter Mayhew, who plays Chewbacca, was there the same weekend, and it was his birthday, and they brought out a cake. It was a Millennium Falcon cake, and he had just had surgery to be able to walk to do Episode 7. And so he got up from his chair and walked for the first time over to the Millennium Falcon cake, blew out the candles, and Mickey gave me a set of Mickey Mouse ears, and I got through that. Chewie was my first action figure, so that was sublime. But I remember going into the ladies' room afterwards and looking at myself in the mirror and saying, whose life is this? You know, I mean, adulting is really hard from age, say, 20 to like, I don't know, 27-ish. So, or like, there are some years in there where you're kind of like, wait, what do I have to do as an adult? I don't know if I can handle this stuff. And I know there are a lot of dark times. I know when I was at NYU, I would hear all of these crazy stories about people jumping off buildings. Like the academic pressure was just too hard. And, you know, I know there's a lot of darkness. There are tons of stories of suicide and this and that, all over people suffering from self-harm. And, you know, you just don't know what miracles are possible in life. I mean, that's what I thought of in that moment. I just thought, if you would have told me that I would be looking at a Millennium Falcon cake with the actual Chewbacca singing happy birthday to him as he goes off to make another Star Wars film. I mean, this was just right up there with proof that you really can't give up. You just can't, because it's better than you can imagine what's ahead. It truly is, nothing is impossible. It's worth it to hang in there. So I recommend it.
How do you personally work through dark times like that, or times where maybe you're not booking as much, or, you know?
Well, I try to give back. And, you know, I help with social media for Step Up Women's organization, helping sort of more marginalized women who are and girls in school sort of get scholarships to get into school and job placement and internships. I can't really offer them an internship and be like, do a good audition and pray and hope for the best. You know, it's like that's not career advice. When I would go to the career mentoring sessions, the girls would be like, I want the lawyer, I want the fashion designer, I want this person who can, you know, plug me into a bank or a law firm or something. And as they should. So I was like, you know what? I love social media. Why don't I tweet away and help in that regard? But I find that energetically, if I'm more focused on what's right, more focused on what I'm grateful for, you know, rather than focusing on, well, I don't have this or I don't have that, but that's only that or whatever it is, I find that really sort of shakes things up. And I love taking classes. Classes are a great way to sort of stay on point. And it's sort of like you can't go to the gym and be like, well, I did buy, so I'm done for the year. You know, it's like, no, I hate to tell you, you got to hit that dumb body part like at least, you know, once a week. Get a, you know what I mean? Like it's just the daily upkeep. I think it's sort of the same. So I try and stay busy and activated. And I have like 3 books that I'm in the middle of reading. I recommend that as well. It's just sort of, if my grandmother used to say to me, if you're bored, then you're boring. So, you know, go do something, go help someone or look for someone else who looks more uncomfortable than you feel. And it really just shifts the energy. I think it makes a difference, you know.
One other role I want to talk about that you do just too was let's talk about Wonder Woman a little bit. How did that feel to get to portray such an iconic role, female role?
That was incredible. I couldn't believe it. Well, the cartoon series, I remember I had just my now ex-husband had proposed to me and took me to Paris. And I mean, we literally went on like a shoestring bite. Like, what are we doing in Paris? I mean, I speak French, but it was like, can we get Le Pizza Hut? You know, I mean, it was like really adorable. You know, he proposed to me on the plane. Aww. And at the time, you know, phones were like, hello, Mom. Like they were, like there was a
giant brick.
Well, yeah, there was a phone on the plane. It was like, I'm getting married. You know, it was bananas. And then my agent called at the hotel and was like, you know, you have a callback for Wonder Woman for the cartoon. And I was like, je ne sais quoi. I mean, like, I am in Paris. I'm sorry, I'm getting married. I don't know what to tell you, you know, so I had to pass that up. And I was so bummed.
No.
And Susan Eisenberg got it, who is Wonder Woman for me. Like, Susan Eisenberg is one of the coolest women on every level. And, like, she is Wonder Woman. I dig her soul. I love her. And so, like, if it, you know, to miss an opportunity to have her fully realize it and embody it, I was like, yes, thank you. Because it was so wonderful to watch and listen to. And anyway, but then they had these sort of one-off films that they did for Warner Brothers. And I got to play Wonder Woman in 2 of them. And I was so honored. You know, I mean, I had the Underoos, and of
Me
course,
too.
you know, I used, like I would watch the TV shows, and yeah, this one, I believe it was Crisis on Two Earths. That was Dwayne McDuffie's final piece of writing that he did. May he rest in peace. God bless him. I love him so much. So it was an honor to, you know, perform in that for that reason. It was an honor to be directed by Andrea Romano, and let's see, the Flashpoint Paradox was the second one, and I don't think we've ever seen Wonder Woman like that. It was bananas. She was complicated. Well, because it was like opposite day. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And also really well written, and yet another honor. So it's been wonderful to be a part of that. And that's the great thing about the voiceover community. I really don't experience that there are haters. Do you know what I mean? Like Susan and I are close as can be. There's never any, I mean, like I played Black Widow in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And I don't play Black Widow anymore. We realize that, you know, we're sort of like, yeah, whatever. None of us are out to sort of murder anyone for taking over a role. Or there's so many things at play. I mean, I think that's also why I prefer voiceover to on-camera acting. I don't know that women are not supportive there, but I know that it's sort of harder. The variables are just a little bit more complicated. If someone doesn't like my voice, I'm like, oh, well, good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, well.
Yep.
Because I can speak in a billion different ways. Like I got to play Erwin in The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. And he's an African-American boy. And, you know, one might not guess that to look at me. I know I scared a lot of small children at Comic-Cons when we would do panels for that cartoon. But anyway, so I really treasure my friendships with my colleagues in voiceover.
I agree with you. That's one of my favorite things about the community.
Yeah,
I just
they're
think
good people.
they are good people, and
Yeah.
they do root each other on and support each other, and it's
Absolutely.
great. Well, you were also very much of a champion to women for finding their voice and their power. So how does it feel for you being able to play these characters that have such great power, and like from the video game roles you play to everything,
Sure.
like you play, you know, some great stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself to sort of give myself permission to play full out, and you know, the idea that gives others permission to do the same. That by playing small, again, we're not doing anyone any favors, and when we stand up for what's right and speak the truth, it's actually better for everyone in the end. I've found in the wealth of my experience in life, and you know, even creatively. You know, because at the end of the day, it is a business. And so, you know, you're running a business, and sometimes, you know, again, with the archetypes that women can play is just sort of the naive, accommodating thing. Or, you know, if you set your boundaries in a way that are, you know, sort of too firm, it's like, oh, well, she's, you know, wow, what the. There's a way to learn to sort of walk with grace and dignity and kindness that allows one's strength to just evolve and manifest. And that's what I feel like I've done in my own life. And when I book these roles, I think like, wow, well, maybe that's because I studied martial arts for 9 years or whatever it was when I booked Gomorrah, you know, that maybe one has a sense of that. I mean, losing 70 pounds and becoming, I mean, I've got like guns and Navarone. You can't really tell in this little pancetta outfit over here, but I mean, like, dude, I'm yoked. Like I was deadlifting 150 pounds. I literally looked at this trainer chick. I was like, who is this? You know, but I mean, there's something to be said for being autonomous, you know, physically capable of lifting something. But yeah, so I hope that the work that I've done on myself and how much I do care about the welfare of others, that translates into some of the ethics and ideology that guide a lot of these strong female characters to sort of do the right thing. I mean, that's why I love Wonder Woman so much, is that she really is all about that. Yeah, the movie was so great.
Oh, such a great movie. I was so excited, and I remember leaving that theater just so jazzed. You know, because you're nervous when you see it, because everybody's wanting it to fail a little bit. You know, not that they were wanting it to fail, but there's the you know,
it can't be as good. It was perfect. The whole audience, and that night, that it was such a magic magical night.
People are clapping and going crazy, and just it was so fun seeing all the little girls and everything. Everybody just pumped. It was
Dressed
so
up.
fun. Yes, the costumes.
awesome.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Well, you've also claimed that you are a Tom girl. So I know you talked about the
yeah.
lifting the weights and stuff. So I
Yeah.
want to hear like more ways that what other
Oh, my
activities you
gosh.
do, or how this resonates with you as well.
Well, I started playing football as a little girl, and I wanted to be a quarterback desperately. And my dad gave me a little coffee mug that it was world's best athlete. And it had, basketball, this or that, the other thing. I mean, I ran track, I did swimming, I did basketball. But football, my dad was like, sorry, pal. I don't really see that happening. And I was crushed. And I cut my chin. I have a scar on my chin from hitting the plate. I was playing flag football. And I don't know what happened. I really don't. But I know that I hit the asphalt with my chin. And now as I'm getting older, like sometimes in pictures I see, if you ever see a line on my face, that's football, ladies and gentlemen. Like that's the least of, it's good times. So I'm wearing battle scars.
Yeah.
But then I discovered martial arts in 1998, I believe it was. And that was sort of at my top weight. And boxing, Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Savate, French kickboxing, which was hilarious. I met this woman. She was from Canada, and she was an Iroquois Indian, and she looked like Wonder Woman. I mean, she was so awesome. And I just shapeshifted with her and became this like crazy athlete. And it's just not stopped since then. And it really impacted the way I started to think about food more as fuel as opposed to like medicating the traumas of life, of adulting. I mean, I love going to see boxing. I love hockey games. I love football. I get really into it. I'm a New York Giants fan. I've got New York Giants flags all over my garage to the point where my Patriots mailman hates me. Oh, well, get over it. We have to agree to disagree on that one because that was a great Super Bowl. But there's a hole in my living room floor where, don't ask why, but these jeans I was wearing, they had these sort of metal buttons on the back, and I had been getting hater texts the entire game, and we ended up winning. Plaxico did some voodoo magic trick that was like, what? And everything came together. Brady, I don't know who slept at that moment, but at any rate, we won, and I started doing this like breakdance maneuver on my living room floor, and there's a hole there that I'm like, I'm never taking that out. Even if I sell my home, I'm going to be like, this moment right here, this was a special moment. And if you want to fix the hardwood, you can, but I'm not going to.
That's great.
Yeah. And I love playing Madden on Madden football. Sorry to hear about the recent event, but and I also like playing the NHL game. Not one for the shoot 'em up games. Freddie Prinze Jr. wanted me to play True Crime with him. I couldn't even get through the first scene. I was like, Freddie, I'm trying to believe people are good. I can't do this. I'm just softy. I just couldn't do it. But anyway, I've just makeup's never been my genre. Like I've never been like, I want a Barbie doll. I was like, I want a football. I was a shot putter. I mean, sometimes I feel like a dude, and I know I don't look like one, but I feel like, how you doing? We got this. I'm perfectly comfortable hanging out with dudes and women, of course, but just sometimes my friends will get together and they're talking about all these facials, and I'm like, what are you even doing? Like, I do my makeup in the car in the rear view, not while I'm driving. I mean, not driving, but red lights, But put on a little bit of lips. You got to put it together. But for the most part, I feel more sort of drawn to being natural and not doing sort of a lot of that stuff. But it is interesting to think about gender and maybe that falls along with the sort of stories that we tell ourselves, like what you have to do to be feminine or what you have to do to be masculine or this or that. And it's been fun to give myself permission to just be a human being and enjoy hanging out at these traditionally male events, How
do you think that spirit has given you, like, also supported you in your career?
Gosh, well, it's funny. When I was voicing promos for CBS, Garen had said, well, you sound like a girl I could go to a ball game with and drink a beer, and that was perfect for a swing town. And I found an award. It won one of the Promax awards. I completely spaced. Like if I don't Google myself, I can't remember half the things I've done in my life. I have no idea what I'm doing. But I found the Promax award. I was like, we got, oh my goodness, that's pretty awesome. But that's something that I think, and maybe my martial arts affects. I got Gamora, or I got Wonder Woman, or Black Widow, or Poison Ivy, or Black Canary, or any of these iconic women who know how to handle themselves and take care of themselves. Similarly, maybe my love of sports and my ability to just hang out and be cool, maybe that does translate into people thinking like, oh, I'd really love to work with her because that would be a nice, easy time. I mean, I'm on time. I'm not complicated. I'm grateful and ready to give 12 takes or leave. You got to kind of read the room. So maybe it has sort of in a subtle way impacted things. But again, it's nothing that's like, like I've had an ulterior motive about it. I guess just being true to oneself in front of the microphone is really probably the best gift, not only for oneself but also for the listener, because they know you're okay. Like you're not having a heart attack or you got this. That hopefully translates. But I never forgot that he said that.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I hope I hear, because for those that don't know, she also used to voice the promos for the Big Brother show.
Oh, that's
on
right.
CBS. So and it's very rare. It's really, really hard for females to get jobs
that
on
was
network
a miracle.
promo.
It was
so to be the voice of a show,
that lasted for quite some time. That was a great gig. I love doing Big Brother. And it's funny because like I've done a bunch of really wacky jobs, but whenever I would tell people that I voiced the promos for Big Brother, they'd be sort of not listening. Like, yeah, that's nice. And then I say Big Brother, wait, what?
Yep.
They freak out because everyone loves Big Brother. Yeah.
That show was my first job at CBS, and they hired me at the time. I literally was off. I got here 2 weeks before that job started, and I walked in for the interview, and they're like, "Oh, we got the show starting. It probably won't be around, probably just the summer. But if you need a summer job, we'll hire you." And I was like, "I'll take a summer job." Okay.
Great.
Now it's like 18 years later, 18 summers later, it's still on the air.
Crazy.
It's an amazing show. It spans.
I want to say it was like 2005 or 6.
I remember
maybe
you
7
doing them.
Yeah, there were a couple summers, and then I think they transitioned to the guy who's been doing it for a while.
Graham.
Yeah. Yeah, and he seems like a really cool, easy going sound. Yeah, I get it. I mean, see, that's the thing, is like no hate. I mean, never, because again, it's like, how do we determine how Americans want to be told what to do tonight at 8:00?
Yeah.
And sometimes they would like a woman. I actually just did a spot, and they had done, they'd polled or whatever, and the people said that they preferred a female voice. And I thought, well, that's amazing, because a lot of times people are more inclined to hear a male voice. So for Pandora, for whatever reason, on Pandora, they want female announcers. So thanks, Pandora people.
Yeah, thanks for the It's interesting. How do you see? I know we only have a little bit of time left, but like trends in VO shifting, or how has it shifted through the time?
Oh my gosh, wow. Well, I would say Obama being elected was huge. Well, actually, before that, 9/11, I saw the biggest shift. People went from like what to really grounded. There was just no time for song and dance. Then Obama was elected, and then it was like, yes, we can. Everyone was all happy and bananas. Then Juno happened, and everyone's like, we want a Juno read. What else lately? There's Kristen Wiig was going for a while. Tina Fey was going for a while. As far as voice prints go for women,
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, but a lot of times what I think they want is, the thing about a celebrity is that they know who they are, so that they may say that because they know who Tina Fey is, but like, sometimes I think they just want someone who knows who they are. And if one can do a Tina Fey-like take, but then also one that's just who they are, that somehow is going to be more compelling, I think, and more full-bodied than someone trying to sound like Tina Fey. I think Maurice Tobias used to call it a star read. If you give yourself permission to be the star that you are, you know exactly how to say that copy, so do that. And there you have it. It's sort of like, whoa, that is really compelling. And I would see that happen in her class over and over again. So
Any
Anyway.
other best lessons like that to wrap up that you would tell people starting out, or things that you're like, I wish I knew before, or any advice?
I honestly, I would say keep taking class and keep having the spirit of a student. It's funny. My ex-husband, he says, you have the skills of a pro and the hunger of a rookie and the humility of a rookie. And I've always thought about that. And I thought, yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. And I think that is a great way to sort of leave things kind of open-ended. And then there's never any pressure, because sometimes if you succeed and you have like an amazing year, things change. And so what do you do in the following year? Well, you have the heart of a rookie. Go take some classes. Go help someone else. Sort of what we had said before. I think the only thing constant is change. So to think like, well, I've arrived. It's like no one ever arrives. It's all about the journey and the process rather than the results. So, keeping that in mind, I think helps weather those times of up and down, which are completely normal. And find it interesting. Find everything interesting, because there's always a backstory. Not to get all nerdy, but you look at Star Wars, you look at Darth Vader. He looks like a real evil dude, but you dig a little bit deeper. He's got abandonment issues, and his feelings were hurt. His mother died. It's never that simple that someone is just a jerk. There's generally something more interesting at work that I think is worth a second look. So.
And that's everywhere in life.
Yes.
People you meet at the, I try to remember that too. You don't know what's going through somebody's, what they're going through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I try to yield. You take the lane.
Yeah.
Just go right ahead.
Yeah.
Pay it forward, right? Yeah.
Well, you were absolutely fantastic, and I can't thank you so much for coming
thank
here
you.
today.
Yeah.
Before we wrap, is there any upcoming work people can see you in, or things you're involved with that they can check out? They can follow you at?
Well, actually, you can follow me on Twitter at Van Marshall, and on Instagram it's at Vanessa Marshall 1138. And the 4th season of Star Wars Rebels just came out, and you might want to check out Good Evening and Good Game, Freddie Prinze Jr.'s role-playing game for Star Wars. You can catch that on his YouTube channel, GEGG. So check that out. More Star Wars Rebels stuff going on there.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us again this week. Next week, because it is NFL football season time and college. Go Huskers this Saturday. I will be there. Woo!
Nice.
Anyway, we will have Tracy Sandler from the Fangirl Sports Network. So another really fun person for you to follow and get all your football fanatic stuff out. Yeah. Awesome. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Yeah.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.